Well, I guess we'll just get started. Sorry everybody doesn't have a chair yet, but I am so happy that there's just a sea of faces of people who love Ben, and I did too, we all did, and I'm just so happy that you wanted to share his life and the celebration of his life with us. I'm Chris DeCrease, his mom, Ben's mom, proud one of Ben. Today, like every one of you and many who traveled long distances, we're here to celebrate Ben's life. Thanks especially to all of you who worked so hard to organize this event and have reached out to support myself and his dad, Dean. Since I firmly believe that Ben is here with us, let's make sure he knows how much we appreciate him and love him. Let's also be sure to let him know that he made a difference in our lives and that he has and continues to make the world a better place. And let's also have fun, because that's what Ben would want. Have you ever heard the story about trying to describe an elephant just by touch alone? Only feeling the trunk, the elephant seems to be a snake. Feeling only his leg or foot, the elephant seems to be like the trunk of a tree. Well, I realize that I only know one small facet of Ben, especially since I've been living in Erie, Pennsylvania for 6 years. And I'm counting on all of you to fill in the picture for me and for all of us together of who Ben was. And if you would like to share, we would love to hear from you. But if you feel like you can't bear to share something or it's something too personal, if you look at the sign-in book in the back, Ben and my contact information's there, and we would love for you to send us an email or anything.
Not
What?
Ben. You said Ben.
Oh, I keep doing this. Will you? Okay, yeah. Dean and my contact information. I'd like to start by offering you a few glimpses of the Ben that I know. Oh, jeez. I'm not used to using this. How do I get rid of this? Yeah, Ben's not here. I just want to get rid of this.
You're a tech guy, not over people.
All right. All right. Okay, the Ben I know had a sharp wit and an awesome sense of humor. And whenever we connect, I feel he's the one person in this world who really gets me. Thank God for texting and for email, because whenever I'd see any little thing, we'd contact each other. Ben enriches my life in so many ways. He turned me on to The Daily Show, The Colbert Report, The Bugle podcast, all things that became rituals for me. Ben can speak eloquently on almost any subject and has an incredibly wide range of interests. Politics, cooking, art and design, music, film, cars, technology, books, mountaineering, and fitness. He never looks at anything in a superficial way and has a deep understanding of so many things. And you can trust him to consider all sides of an issue or decision before ever speaking. Ben was a minimalist. He has an elegant simplicity to his design sensibility. He could have easily been an artist, a designer, or engineer. I always thought that of him. He has a mind that revels in order. From the time he was a toddler, he would spend hours laying out and categorizing his collections. He had a feather collection, a rock collection, a shell collection, coin collections, baseball cards. I considered Ben one enlightened spirit who was able to cut through the everyday bullshit to what was really important. Ben loves to stretch himself and take physical risks. And I can't tell you how happy and relieved I was when he started to channel that need through his rock climbing, and especially through the Mountaineers. Is anybody here from the Mountaineers? Not now? Okay. I would love to meet some people that he climbed with. He also stepped up more and more to take on leadership roles at schoolwork and in professional societies. Ben has a profound sensitivity, a sensitivity that enables him to pick up on the needs of others, to be the loyal friend and loving son that he is. Unfortunately, this sensitivity makes him unusually also vulnerable to criticism and negative events, and can be a source of pain which he was often managing. I believe that Ben used stoicism and his self-discipline to maintain his control. He was incredibly self-disciplined and persevering. One of my favorite memories involved the best value his dad and I ever got from less than $1. When Ben was about to enter kindergarten, he was still lisping his S's. And we thought that, that might make trouble for him in school. So we practiced with him in the morning, and we offered to pay him a penny for each S that he said correctly. And I think it was by lunchtime. We had spent about less than 50 cents, and he never lisped again. I couldn't believe that. Besides being my tech advisor and guru, Ben turned me on to some films or ideas that have had profound effects on my life. In 2001, you know this one, Barbara, he had me watch the movie Gladiator, which pretty much changed my whole life. Anybody who knows Ben knows he's a big fan of the Coen brothers. So when we were trying to rack our brains for a fitting quote for his celebration bookmark, we figured we couldn't do better than using the notable quote from The Big Lebowski, that the dude abides. And those are on the whole quotes on the bookmark. Please do pick one up in the back. Our cremation will take place on Monday, but I assure you that we do not plan to scatter his ashes from a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And if you don't get that, you have to watch the movie. Ben's dad, Dean, and I want to say thank you so much for being Ben's friends, for sharing and enriching his life, the life of our wonderful son. We want to especially express our gratitude to his girlfriend, Catherine, who provided him with so much joy this past year. Thank you so much for coming and helping to celebrate Ben today.
That'd be perfectly okay with someone else going out.
I have to admit, I met Ben only once. It was, can everybody hear me okay? Okay. I met him only once. It was for our gallant eyebrows little fraternity. And we all went out for pizza. And I remember that all I had was a card, and it was cash only. And so we were trying to figure out how to split the bill. And Ben told me, none of us are starving, it's okay. And it was very reassuring for me to hear that, because I had just started my first salary position and coming out, and I had come out from temping, working minimum wage, and it was so wonderful to hear that from him that it's going to be okay. And and I still owe him for that pizza. So I will always have one slice for Ben every time I eat pizza from now on. And he is still bringing us together. And that's how I love you, Alex, too, by the way. Alex to Alex. I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if I can do this without crying. So I was one of Ben's climbing partners. Wasn't in the Mountaineers, but we climbed together all through grad school and continued afterwards. We never did make it outside together. It was always in the gym, which I'm really sorry for, because there is something special about being outdoors and climbing. But Ben was always pushing me to get better. I would climb a route, I'd fail, but he'd say, no, you can do that. Here, I'll give you some tips. He'd hop up there, show me a couple moves, I'd do it, and I would have climbed something that I never thought I could have climbed. And beyond that, Ben and I spent time together, having really deep conversations. Not too long before he moved back here from Wenatchee, I had him over to my house, and we split most of a bottle of scotch and shared a couple cigars, and just talked about life for maybe 4 hours. I wouldn't let him drive home, so I put him on my guest bed in the basement, and the next morning he flew off, presumably to see Chris, because he was off to Pennsylvania. And I'll always remember that night and many others very fondly. He was a very good friend to me for the last, I guess, 6 years now, and I'll miss him a lot. I'm Murray. So, sir?
I'm going to tell you a story. It's about 4 people. I'm one of them. Dean's another, Ben is another, and my son Adam is another. In 1992, I was becoming divorced. I was living in an apartment near Green Lake. My son was 9 years old, and he was with me on the weekends. Chris, I don't know how you're going to take this part of the story. One day, and I was really feeling pretty good about things in general. And I was in the parking garage in this apartment building. And I came across a fellow with some boxes. He was schlepping boxes from his car to the elevator. And his soon-to-be ex-wife was with him, Chris, and it was Dean. And, we were introducing each other to ourselves. And I said, I'm getting divorced. My son's 9 years old. He's with me on the weekends. And Dean says, oh, well, I'm getting divorced too. And I'm going to live in this building, and my son's 10 years old, and he's going to be with me on the weekends. And Chris says, oh, great.
I did.
Something like that. Isn't that just great? So that was the beginning of a buddy club. And we had a lot of dinners together. We had vacations together. We spent a lot of time together on the weekends, restaurants, movies, and yes, The Big Lebowski. Can we get that image up on the screen?
Isaac, actually,
I just want to talk about Ben's sense of humor. It just so happens that the four of us all had one. And there were just a lot of gags, and a lot of laughs, and a lot of late nights, and a lot of comedy movies, and The Big Lebowski got played over and over again. And we just really enjoyed each other's company a lot. We went to Thailand together, we went to England together, we went to Northern California together. And here's a picture of Adam with a ringer in the city of York, about to pull Ben's arm into the ringer. So this is just one example. So we just had gags, lots of laughs, and sure, we had lots of deep conversations, and we talked a lot about the serious side of things. And I think I consider myself an honorary uncle of Ben, and I'm very proud to say that. And I'm so sorry for everybody and your loss, especially Dean and Chris and Ben's other aunts and uncles, cousins, and I know we're all going to miss him very much.
Are there any other family members that would like to speak?
Thanks, Fran, for my flower. I'm Ben's dad, and I'm actually the closer. But I'm gonna put in a little bit of extra comments, I guess. And I really want to hear from more of you, like Chris said, to kind of fill in the gaps, because as he became an adult, and he just got so involved with his eyebrows and his climbing buddies and beer drinking buddies and all that. I wasn't there. He didn't invite his dad to that stuff. You don't do that. So I want to know. So I hope that some of you screw up the courage to get up here. I want to give a little bit of a thread of history to the eyebrows, which I think we have quite a few of in here. They went to the eye school, for those of you who are uninitiated. Ben was like the bookiest guy ever. It's, I guess, the first story that Chris and I came up with was when he was in Montlake grade school, they had a reading contest to see which kid could read the most books in a certain period of time. And Ben read more than twice as many as the second place one. And the teacher even called and didn't believe that he actually did it. But as you who know him know about him, when he did something, he just went all the way. And so that's the first book story. But he has books threading, paging throughout his life. When he was in his early teens, before Amazon was around, he started selling books online. And he was a businessman. He had his own company. He was just a kid. And so what he'd do is he would research books and figure out, okay, this book, I could sell this on eBay, or I think it was eBay at the time, for $13. And he'd go to all the used bookstores and find it for 25 cents and make this enormous profit. And shortly after, he just said to me, "Hey, Dad, I don't need allowance anymore. I got this thing nailed." And he did that for quite a while. And after that, he got into antiquarian books. And I don't know, maybe some of you know about this, but he was doing even 17th century, 16th century Latin and Greek books that were, hand printed and bound. And he found a bookbinder in Vancouver who was his personal bookbinder to restore these precious books. And it was awesome to have them on the shelf in our house, just to share space with these wonderful pieces of art and intellectual history. And you know, he was meticulous. He was really good at that, and he was studious about it. But he also appreciated the artistic side of books, of those antiquarian books. Okay. Yeah, I was getting to that. Shortly after that, he got a job at the best antiquarian bookstore in Seattle. It's closed, unfortunately, Wessel and Lieberman, but some of you may remember it. And Mark Wessel, even though he hasn't been there for years, he just sent him an email the other day, and I had to answer with the most horrible response I can imagine. But he's got a project, and he wanted Ben's opinion on this new library project he has in mind. So he was a bookseller that way, and then of course, what other books things are there in between there? The iSchool, that's a book thing. But in between that, when he was at Washington State University, he majored in digital communication and culture. But his job when he was there was he worked for the special collections. He was the archivist. So he did all the research on the Indian arrowheads and all the kind of cool stuff they had in their special collections section, and they loved him. And I think, and now I remember, the reason he got the job at Wessel and Lieberman is they so highly recommended Ben from his work as an undergrad. Then the iSchool, which he loved, and I don't have to tell you guys anything about that part, but he was deeply committed to the iSchool. And of course, then until now, he's a taxonomist and sort of program manager at Amazon. So there you go. I mean, Amazon's not just a bookstore anymore, but it's amazing when you think about one person's life and how much depth there can be in just that one slice. But we can talk about other slices too, because when Ben got into something, he went all the way, and he stuck with it. So that's my book story.
Thanks for sharing.
I can see a lot of folks are holding out to go to the College Inn and tell the real stories. That's fine.
Don't hold back. We can take it.
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So I met Ben right here on campus for the very first time, and I remember that moment of, all the excitement of becoming a future librarian of America, and, the male-to-female ratio was kind of, it leaned toward the ladies, and I remember there was that junior high point and everything where we were going to the bowling alley now to, socialize, and all the guys looked to the left and right and kind of gathered together, and that was pretty much it for about 2 years. It's funny to hear people saying eyebrow like it's a real thing, because it was such a joke, but then it became it's a real thing now. In 2014, they started allowing women, and it was a beautiful thing. And it was nothing. And I think that that was definitely a great time for me. For myself, I had come from a military background, and I didn't deal with a lot of the things that I should have, and I took the bad advice of burying it and trying to fly right. And Ben's little sixth sense was constantly ringing around me, and he really he got to me. He resonated at a frequency that I could hear him at when I couldn't hear anyone else, and he really helped me out. He really helped me out, and he was steadfast as a friend. He was the type of person that would drive from Wenatchee to take you to sushi. And I am so grateful for the times that we were together. The last few times, it was a very sincere outpouring on my part of how I felt about him. And I high-five myself for that one because it's good that I let him know how I felt about him because he's fucking top shelf. So I think that I can take away a lot from this, and as narratives go, this is an incredible one. I mean, he lived a good life, and it was fun hearing stories about him as a younger kid. I think at this point he found his tribes, you know, like he found Ibro, he found the I School, he found a lot of similar souls in the world, and I think he resonated pretty loudly and clearly. This is awesome, guys, and thank you all. I appreciate it. Wait, I wrote some stuff down actually. Where did I put that notepad? I think it was just a bunch of thank yous and jokes. So, thank you and jokes. Real circle right college is
So I'm not an Ibro, although I've been invited to the events.
See?
It is a real thing. I'm Robin, and I worked with Ben at the iSchool. That's an online learning GSA. And it's so funny because you talk about, I wasn't in the same cohort as Ben. I graduated the year before him, but when you work for the iSchool and you go to school for the iSchool, you live on campus, so you never go home. My husband, I don't even think he lived in the city yet, so like literally I just didn't go home. I think I just hung out on campus a lot. But they had all the folks who worked for the iSchool in this like similar space where we all kind of like a dungeon but nicer. They called it the garden level, which is the nice way of saying it had very few windows. It was very dark. So there were a lot of folks there, but Ben and I were the only two who worked in the same job around online learning. So kind of for this year that we were both working in the same job, we kind of had to face each other. He'd be on one side of a table, and I was on this side, and we were kind of, forced to be like eye to eye for 20 hours a week on top of having classes together sometimes. So, when you're not like married to someone and you have to stare into their eyes like 20 hours, but really figure out kind of either if you really dislike them or if they're someone who's worthwhile. And we all know Ben is very worthwhile, but what's also funny is if you knew Ben during that period and you knew who he worked for. He worked for a woman named Grace, who I've been in contact with, and I know she could be here. But Grace is a really big, loud, wonderful lady, and when Grace and I were together, we both got kind of bigger and louder for some reason we couldn't explain. And then so there's the two of us having grand ideas and big things, and then there's Ben who's now sandwiched between these two women. Probably why he needed eyebrows, because we were talking about big things and how we were going to do all these recordings for online learning. And I distinctly remember when we hired Ben, I started a little before him, and Grace and I were talking about how we were going to do these really great like video recording interviews with people, and we were saying how smart we were and how this is going to be the best thing, and Ben was the one who was like, do any of you know how to use a camera? And we didn't. We were all like, well, we don't know, but someone will figure this out. And it was Ben who, I remember, was the poor soul who had to take the camera and figure out like the lighting setup and do all these things, and Grace and I would just stand back and be like, wow, Ben's amazing, and then we didn't help him at all. So it went on like that for a year, but I graduated, and I was so sad to leave the iSchool, not only because it is a fabulous place. I see so many of you I know here, and it's so wonderful to see you. But for me, I think about the iSchool, and I think about being in that room, and I think about Grace, and I think about Ben. And I don't think I realized how much he missed it until I heard the news. So I was really glad I got to reconnect with him a little bit when he moved back. I think sometimes you realize how much you miss people and how much you would spend time with them. And it's rough. I find it rough. But it's so great to hear the stories and know what really goes on when he goes off to college and with the boys, because sometimes we wonder. But no, he was fabulous, and he was, I think the way I really thought about him is he was just so brilliant, and he was so able to keep it as a quiet brilliance that let other people shine as well as himself. And I'll really value him for that.